Hello everyone, it's Jamie and welcome back to another video. Today is just a little over a year since this Vitus Nucleus first arrived at my doorstep. This was just as the virus hit, and I was lucky enough that I didn't have to wait a crazy amount of time for my bike to arrive like we do have to now. So seeing as though a year has passed, I thought I'd do a review video and cover a few things. What I like, what I dislike, and any issues I've had so far, which there has actually been a few. So starting off then, how much did it cost? Well, I bought this bike from wiggle.com here in the UK and it cost me £549.99. My first impressions of it straight out of the box was wow, this thing looks and it feels like a tank. I had no issues with any flat tyres, bent wheels or any scratches or defects in the paintwork while it was being shipped to me. There was zero imperfections. All I had to do when I took it out of the box was undo the 4 bolts on the stem, put the handlebars on, and everything else was already attached, which was very nice. I wasn't sure whether or not to go for the burgundy or the concrete paint job, but I did settle on the burgundy as I thought the concrete would look dirty even if I went through the smallest of puddles. I kind of regret that decision now though, because I'm kind of bored of the burgundy. The first few rides went smoothly with almost nothing to complain about apart from a sore bum from the brand new seat and the odd puncture along the way. The overall build of this bike is very well built. I can't fault the frame or the forks at all. I've taken a few big slams and it's held up almost perfectly. The 120mm Suntour forks are brilliant for this entry-level bike. I've ridden some of the steepest stuff in my local area and they soak up the big drop-offs. The internal routing for the dropper post could not be any easier. It took me about an hour to get it dialed in perfectly. I got it set up with zero knowledge of how to do it. I've seen people use the Park Tools cable routing tool, but I had no need to use this whatsoever. The Vitus lock-on grips are superb. There's no need to upgrade these. I've had no issues with these at all either. There's no moving or slipping, and to be fair, they actually look very nice on the bike too. Now I'm going to talk about the bad points I've had with the bike. I did have a bad experience with Wiggle with them sending me out the wrong back wheel when mine actually did break, so we'll get into that now. So within the first few months of owning this bike, I was out riding nothing more than roads, gravel tracks and the occasional bridle path due to the restrictions of the virus. So nothing too hard for a mountain bike. On one of the rides, the rear hub kept on making a grinding noise which sounded like metal on metal, which over time kept getting louder and louder. Unbeknownst to me was the rear axle getting looser and looser. I contacted Wiggle and they came back to me with the solution of taking the back wheel to a local bike shop and having them take a look at it. I took it to the shop and they said that the ball and cup bearings were faulty and they fixed it. When I told Wiggle, they reimbursed me for it. However, when I first took it back out, the ball and cup bearings come loose again straight away. They sent me out a second back wheel, which was a nuke-proof Mega Neutron, the 36 tooth rear wheel, and I'm yet to have any issues with that wheel so far. The only complaint I'll have about that though is that this back wheel is black spokes, whereas my front wheel is now silver, so they don't match. It would have been nice if they would have sent me out a front wheel too, just so the pair could match. Another issue was the bottom bracket. As you can see here, it takes me quite a bit of force to snap the bottom bracket to get it going. This is the bottom bracket that was put inside. I'm not sure why they've cheaped out on these parts. I know it's a budget bike, but surely it wouldn't have cost a little bit more to put a Shimano bottom bracket in there. This is what the bottom bracket looked like. It looked like rust coming out of the actual bottom bit of it. I'm not sure how it got in that state because I was, after every ride, cleaning it and drying it. So I'm not sure why it looked like that. But yeah, it looks like rust coming out the bottom. And how there's that gunk inside, I'll never know. Where it's come from, I haven't got a clue. How does like big chunks of mud even get in there? So after finding the bottom bracket in that state, I took it upon myself to go ahead and order a Shimano UN55 73mm threaded sealed cartridge. Like I said before, I'm not sure why they didn't just put one of them in there before. This could have been avoided if they used name brand parts. The WTB Trail Boss tyres, yep, they're spot on. The only thing is they're not actually tubeless ready. So if you plan on going tubeless, be prepared to add that expense on for new tyres. The rims, however, are the WTB TCS 2.0 tubeless ready. I looked online and many places were saying that you had to take off the yellow rim tape as it wasn't actually rim tape, but a few people said it is, so I just added the sealant and I've had zero issues with the wheel deflating or any issues with tubeless at all. There is no clutch on the rear derailleur. This causes a lot of chain slap and the chain is prone to bouncing off the front chain rings. The chain now gets stuck between the inner crank and the chainstay, which has resulted in excessive wear to the chain and cassette, which I've also had to replace. In my opinion, a 2x drivetrain is a bit outdated. As I said, the chain's forever flapping about. They could have just put a nice 1x on there, give you a bit more range on the back end as well with a bigger cassette. But since we don't have that, I've put a old inner tube around the chainstay just to protect it. The front chain ring does actually need replacing because you can see it's worn out, so I might actually just replace it with a 1x anyway. I like the design of these Suntour Q-Lock quick releases, but one thing I do find is they're quite difficult to get out, as you can see here. This was actually the second time of getting the axle out, and you can still see it's quite stiff. On the end of the axle there, you can see like the white marks. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's almost like they weld on to the inside of where the axle goes through. I had to put a cloth on the end of the axle and hammer it through gently as I could, just to get it to budge, because it was not moving at all. I must say though, that's the first time I've had the front wheel off in months. Probably 3 to 4 months, so that could just be on my part, but you wouldn't think it would go like that from not taking it off. So with all this in mind, would I buy this bike again? Well, that's a good question, because as you can see, I've had quite a lot of faults with mine, but this could just be one off with my bike, you never know. I think it's a great value for money, and the amount of fun I've had on this in the past year has actually been awesome. I mean, you can't really go wrong for under £555.